I'm Kirk McPike, and I'm running in the Democratic primary for Alexandria City Council. I am Jason's husband. I'm the proud parent of a beagle named Punky. I'm a resident of Alexandria's West End. I'm a member of our city's Budget Advisory Committee, and I am the chief of staff to a progressive leader in the United States Congress. I'm an Alexandrian by choice. I came to the city 10 years ago to run Adam's campaign for Virginia Senate. And I knew within days of arriving that Alexandria is where I wanted to live for the rest of my life. During that campaign, I was living in the Fox Chase apartments on Duke Street, and the campaign gave me an opportunity to see some of the best of our city. The celebrations for George Washington's birthday, or St. Patrick's Day, or Alexandria's founding. The restaurants and stores in Old Town and Delray. It gave me an opportunity to learn about our city, about our schools and our neighborhoods, about our history and our potential. When I took my current job on Capitol Hill, it was important to me to continue living in Alexandria. So I rented an apartment just across the street from Potomac Yard. From there, I could walk to some of the best things in our city. I could walk across to Potomac Yard to shop or see a movie. I could walk to Chiralagua or to Delray for a meal. And on Sundays, I could walk to Grace Episcopal Church. It was during this time that I became involved in the civic life of our city. I joined the Alexandria Economic Opportunities Commission, which I later chaired, and took part in the struggle to help lower-income Alexandrians keep food on their table or a roof over their heads. In 2016, I bought a home in Park Fairfax, and while I was living in that unique and beautiful neighborhood, I got married, and Jason moved to Alexandria. We were living in Park Fairfax last spring when the pandemic hit, and during that time, our neighborhood grew so much closer together as we checked in on each other, as we helped each other, and as we faced this challenge together. Last summer, Jason and I moved to Seminary Hill, where we bought a home with a backyard for our beagle, and we now live on a beautiful street full of wonderful people. When our friends and family visit, they often want to see DC. They want to see the monuments or the Capitol or the White House, but I want to show them Alexandria. I want to take them to the church that George Washington attended. I want to take them to dinner at Clyde's on the West End, or at Sushi Bar in Delray, or at Fish Market in Old Town. I'll show them Punky's favorite dog parks along Duke Street or Monroe Avenue. And I'll take them to the top of the Masonic Temple to check out the best view of our region, where you can see DC and the river in the distance, but Alexandria is all around you. I wasn't born in Alexandria, but I stayed in Alexandria, and I've built my life in Alexandria, because this is where I found a city that is full of people who share my progressive values. This is where I found a community that has a sense of its city's history and aspirations for its future. This is where I found a home, and I love my home. I am running for city council because I believe that Alexandria's future can be even brighter than its present. But to achieve that brighter future, we need leaders who are willing to listen to the multitude of voices in our city, committed to addressing the legacy of targeted discrimination that still haunts our city, and able to channel the passion so many people feel for Alexandria into real solutions to our problems. And because the new city council will come into office in the shadow of the pandemic, we need leaders who are able to hit the ground running and do the job on day one. My long experience in Alexandria's politics, my work to advance progressive priorities on Capitol Hill, my time on Alexandria's Budget Advisory Committee, and the Economic Opportunities Commission have prepared me to be an effective advocate for you from the moment that I am sworn in. As we gather here today, too many people in our city are struggling with the effects of the coronavirus. Amongst our neighbors, there are those who are sick, at home, or in the hospital. There are those who have lost their job or seen their hours cut. There are young people who've had important learning opportunities disrupted. And of course, there are far too many people in our city and across this country who have lost friends or family members, the highest, hardest cost any of us have had to bear during this horrible year. Even after this virus is in the past, its legacy on our city will linger. Storefronts will lay empty, families will struggle to make ends meet, students will strive to catch up. And the legacy of this lost year will fall hardest on those in Alexandria who are already struggling to hold on to their place in our city, our working families, our neighbors with disabilities, and our immigrant communities. In 2022, Alexandria will need a city council that is up to the task of putting us back on the right path. A city council that is willing to give local businesses the support that they need. A council that will work to bring new jobs and new businesses in to replace the ones we've lost. A council that will be an ally of the working people of our city in their fight for good wages and benefits. A council that will prioritize supporting our public schools. And a council that will center the needs and listen to the voices of communities that too often have been left behind to ensure that they are also made whole. If I have the honor of receiving your vote, I will help to lead the council in this direction, because that is how we will put the coronavirus behind us, by repairing the damage it has caused and laying a foundation for our future, one in which our city is a model for other places in our region, where good jobs and union jobs abound, where schools prepare our students for success, where the government is open, responsive, and transparent, and where we've tackled long-term challenges like housing affordability, inequality, accessibility, and flooding, while preserving our neighborhoods, our parks, and our green spaces. And of course, when we're thinking about the future, we have to start with our schools. On the City Council, I will always fight for Alexandria's public schools. I am the son of a teacher, and in Congress I work for a member of the Education Committee who spent more than 20 years as a classroom teacher. I share the commitment held by so many people in this city to ensuring that our schools have the funding they need to help our students succeed and the space they require to end classroom overcrowding. We can improve funding for schools without adding to the burden on residential taxpayers by revitalizing our commercial spaces, bringing in new businesses, and helping local existing businesses thrive. We can ensure that finding more space for schools and learning remains a top priority for our city by bringing the school district in earlier when making land use decisions and by protecting the land our schools already have. We need more space for our students, not less. And on City Council, that's what I'll fight for. I began my service in Alexandria on a commission that focused mostly on our affordable housing crisis. Every year, our rising cost of living squeezes Alexandrians out of their city. It makes it harder for people who've lived their entire lives here to retire in the community they love. It makes it seem impossible for young people to find a place to live in the city they've always called home. This challenge makes it harder for our government, our schools, and our businesses to find employees, because those workers are often forced into long commutes during which they pass many other places where they could work instead. So I believe that we must fight for greater affordability in housing. We must expect more affordable units from corporations that are redeveloping parts of our city. We must encourage mixed-use properties that combine residential spaces with commercial locations. We must look for ways to thoughtfully and carefully add housing supply. And we must do these things in ways that protect our green spaces, that improve our city infrastructure, and that preserve the beauty and history of our neighborhoods. I don't believe that preserving the things that make us love Alexandria is incompatible with fighting for housing affordability. On the contrary, I think the things that make us love Alexandria are the reason we must fight to keep the city affordable. The beauty of Alexandria isn't just found in its parks, its historic districts, its waterfronts, or its neighborhoods. It's found in the people of Alexandria. And on City Council, I will fight for a city where the people who live here today can keep living here tomorrow. Of course, housing isn't the only long-term challenge Alexandria faces. The next council will have to find a delicate balance amongst many priorities. We have to do our part to fight climate change. We have to maintain our natural environment, our green spaces, and our streams. We have to take on inequality, prejudice, and discrimination wherever it is found, and we must end the flooding that impacts too many homeowners and businesses in this city. The current council has created a program to fund a decade's worth of improvements and repairs, and created a citizens committee to oversee the process. The fee is a lot of money, and a decade is too long for people to keep pumping water out of their basements. The next city council must work with the citizen committee to find ways to move this process more quickly and to make sure we get the job done. We need to find ways to bring outside funds to bear on this challenge, money we can use to speed up the repairs, to lower costs for local taxpayers, or both. In Congress, I've worked with offices from across the political spectrum and across the country. I know what it takes to address disparate and often contradictory priorities, and I am ready to serve on the council and help Alexandria achieve that balance. Of course, that balance is hard to achieve when emotions run high and trust is frayed. I was at the Capitol on January 6th when the tensions in our national politics became frightening and violent. We're fortunate to live in a city full of good people and dedicated public servants who want to work together. But I think we all realize that even here, things have gotten too heated. Too often, people in our city feel talked at and not listened to. Too often, honest disagreements are presumed to be bad faith arguments. Too often, it feels like our public engagement process comes up short, and opinions shared by the public have limited impact on policy decisions. It doesn't have to be this way. And if I'm elected to City Council, I will do all that I can to ensure that every Alexandrian is listened to, heard, and understood on the issues that matter most to them. I will hold regular town halls, both in person, when we can do that again, and virtually. I will be a conduit for productive conversation between city residents and city staff. I will insist that the public be brought into policy discussions sooner. I've spent my career working to help elected officials and candidates understand and respond to the needs of their constituents, and I will be an accessible and responsive member of City Council who does exactly that. Now, that doesn't mean we'll always agree. A lot of the problems facing our city don't have just one answer. But I firmly believe that democracy only works when it's built on a foundation of trust. And trust requires not just communication, but conversation. And that's what I hope this campaign can be, a conversation, because there are so many exciting possibilities that lay ahead of us, and we need to be talking right now about how to make the most of them. From the Virginia Tech Innovation Campus that's going into Potomac Yard, to the redeveloped Landmark Mall site that will be anchored by a new Inova hospital, we have real opportunities to bring innovative new businesses into our city. By standing with the building trades and other unions, we can make sure that these and future projects in Alexandria pay good wages and offer significant benefits to help build and restore our middle class. We can protect our tree canopy, our green spaces, our parks, and our streams by working together to find creative solutions to our environmental obligations and maintaining the beauty of our natural environment. We can fund our schools, we can find space for our students, and we can connect them with programs linked to Virginia Tech or to the labor movement, or apprenticeship programs linked to the labor movement, to ensure that every child in Alexandria is put on a path to a prosperous future. We can fight for housing affordability, for transit and traffic policies that keep our city moving, and to fight the threat of climate change. We can stand up for our core progressive value of inclusion, acknowledge and address the complexities of our past, and build a city where people of every racial, ethnic, national, and economic background, people of every sexual orientation and gender identity, people with disabilities, and people of every faith or no faith can live and work together. If we listen to each other, if we work together, and if we stand together, we can make Alexandria's future even brighter than its present. Thank you so much for being here today.